Thank you very much. Quick shot, and that game showed us a lot in the beginning. I think we should just start it right off. Freak, take it away. It was a bit about the face checks.
Yeah, there were a couple of really awkward situations. At the very beginning, Imp loses all his summoner spells walking into a brush, and I know Doublelift actually had some thoughts on what Genja should have done differently when Imp face checked him in the bottom lane.
Yeah, so Genja's orb blocking really failed him right there. I don't know what was going on, but just mechanically, if he had orb blocked correctly and flashed over, because you know exactly what Caitlyn's going to do. She's going to flash over that little wall. That was first blood. And the funniest thing is, right afterwards, after Imp face checks, Genja face checks into both of them, and then Sona doesn't use exhaust at level 1. Those were just not very good.
For people that don't know what orb blocking is actually, because we may be kidding to people that don't know, it's when you move in between your auto attacks. You basically can only auto attack every so often. You should have to move in between, so you position yourself closer to the enemy. I think you should have done 2 auto attacks, then phosphorus bomb, flash over and get him. But I don't think that was like the biggest mistake. It was potential for Gambit to get ahead, but it wasn't the reason they lost.
Yeah, and that was actually big. And just as one extra point on that one as well is sometimes you don't want to flash over because you might jump into an enemy team, and that can always be a bit risky. But if you hit someone with Phosphorus Bomb, you mark them. And so Caitlyn would have revealed if there were teammates she was flashing into on the other side of the wall, so it would have been a safe chase.
Yeah, exactly. It was just poor mechanical play by, I think, both teams at level 1.
And Monty, right from the get-go, you noticed something out of Champion Select. Finally, a double AP composition or double AD composition that kind of did it the right way.
And this is something that is absolutely in Ozone's wheelhouse. They're very used to playing this. Dade is pretty much the quintessential mid Ezreal player. Used to play at AP, now plays at AD. And what really stood out to me in picks and bans is you saw that Shen ban going down even though they were on blue side. And that says Shen is very powerful against double ADs because he gets so tanky and can split push in the late game that if you go past 25, 30 minutes and he starts getting Thorn Mails, it absolutely shuts him down. Now on the other side, they picked Zach Jarvan, which is precisely what they wanted because that gives you the option to all-in dive with your double AD. So once we saw the rotations coming down, and again, Kobe touched on this, the rotations were absolutely key. And to go back to the Karthus build on Alex as well, Sork shoes first meant he never got tier, which meant that delayed his power spike in the late game. Gave him a quick spike early if he wanted to ult, but Ozone never gave Gambit a chance to use that Karthus ult. And we didn't even see Requiem until about 27 minutes into that
First
game.
time. Yeah.
So that was... Alex and team didn't make enough plays to take advantage of that early game build, and then it came back and really bit them hard later. So
a little more respect put in the mid lane on Alex this game.
Yeah,
right?
and this is what we wanted to see from Ozone, right? Is they lacked respect earlier. They saw that Sork shoes and they played very methodically, didn't give him the option to use that power spike, and then moved on from there.
I think all the points Monty raised there, we can trace down back to the bot lane initially where Genja face checked the second brush. Put Genja really low, he had to base, he loses advantage against Caitlyn, which is already a losing matchup. Gets to lane really late, his tower's going down step by step by step. On top of that, in mid they had a really bad 2v2 trade in which they lost the first blood.
Right.
So there's pressure on bot lane, mid's not going too well, they get the tower down early because of the face check from Genja. They rotate into mid, get that tower down, and then they get the snowball rolling.
Yeah, and that's what's so crazy about this Ezreal-Caitlyn combination is that if you fall behind in lane, in the 2v2 lane like we saw, there's nothing to stop Caitlyn from taking your turret. And as soon as that first turret goes down, Caitlyn's rotations, Imp's rotations with Dade after that, just tower, 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 tower. And it's really difficult to stop that composition if you let it get rolling.
Yeah, exactly. And, I really think that Gambit kind of misplayed there. Not only did Genja face check, but I just think Corki Zyra has a really bad time against Caitlyn Sona. Not only do you not have sustain against Caitlyn, which is, essential to laning against Caitlyn's poke, but, it's Caitlyn Sona versus you're just going to outrange them and beat them in lane regardless of Genja's face check. The best thing for them to do there strategically was to start the game off 2v1, and then swap in as soon as Corki got a Vamp Scepter. But
on the other hand, though, Elise is a really good matchup against Zac, so swapping it might not have been the solution they wanted.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. The trade-off would just be allowing Caitlyn to take that first tower. And as you saw, a Korean team who gets the first tower, especially Ozone, they're going to snowball that first tower into another tower, into another tower, into another tower.
Yeah, and that is kind of what happened. And actually, to your point, Kreppy, you talked about the Elise matchup. No, unfortunately for Darian, he actually lost out in CS at one point. It was mid-70s against 90, so even with the good matchup, he didn't do well. And the other thought I had actually is on Darian and Diamond specifically. So one thing that Diamond did that was really awkward to me was he went for an early Aegis. And the Aegis aura only gives magic resist, and he's fighting Jarvan in the jungle and dual AD carries and like some damage from Zac. And he's like, I'm going to buy a magic resist aura. And I was like, what if you buy like a Randuin's Omen, you just sit on the Caitlyn and she cries a whole bunch. And the second thought I had on that as well is it almost would have been better if Darien and Diamond had switched champions and you had Elise jungling to make early advantages, to make these openings and make ganks happen, and let Darien play a real split pusher who can get massive and cause splits.
Right, and you have to split push against double AD, and they just had one of the best siege compositions you could possibly have, and so I don't think Gambit's used to playing against this style. This is something we've seen a lot in Korea, but not so much in other regions.
Real quick, Repo?
Yeah, I think split push is the answer to it, but I think at a few points in the game, Gambit could have actually got it back if Alex would have flashed in with his Defile on. Once he has his Zonyas, card is flashing means zone. If you zone both AD carries, it could have actually killed the other people, the tanks going in off, because Jarvan going in, Zac going in, zoning, flashing over them, zoning the AD carries creates a huge distance in between the two lines of the battlefield. But yeah, Alex Sadie's flash, tried to ulti. I mean, no discredit. Like, it's his choice of play. But it could have maybe swung it back into their favor. But I really like how Ozone methodically, one by one, got this game out. Mana's warding was really, really... even though he didn't play the super...
Liked him enough that you wish you would have picked him?
No, because then they would have lost anyways. Like.
All right, well, we go with that one. You and Freak both had Gambit going into that. Ozone, congratulations to the winner, Crepo. Double Lift and Monty coming down that one. But let's see how that affects the official standings of the games. With their win, Ozone moves into a tie for second place with Gambit, one game behind Fnatic. Gentlemen, it's time to use your vision wards and gaze into the future for our next matchup. It's Fnatic.